Hi, I'm Sue Carney of Magnolias West, and we are looking at a full moon tomorrow, and so it's time for us to connect in our circle and talk about what's present and what's available to us. Today, I've invited Audra Grady to be my guest on this call, and we're going to have a conversation that supports you taking exquisite care of yourself, whether you're working or at play or on vacation. Let's just talk about this crazy idea that we don't have to wait until we have something called vacation to slow down and drop in and be in our highest, most loving self-care. So, and for anyone who joins us on the call live, welcome. And if you're listening to the recording later, we have moon circle calls right before, the day before, or close to the day before each new and full moon. And I always get somebody to come and talk to me. And if you ever want to be my guest on one of these calls, let me know in a comment below if you're listening to the recording, or just hit me up on Facebook Messenger. I'm so easy to find on the magnoliaswest.com website. I'm out there. Okay, so let's start as usual by dropping in. So if you can, relax your gaze, close your eyes, or just relax your gaze, which means your eyes may still be open, but you're not focused. It actually feels different in the muscles of my eyes when I do that thing of relaxing my gaze and my focus. So see what that feels like. If you like to keep your eyelids partially open, if you can put down whatever's in your hands. Sometimes I take off my glasses for this, just as another way to set the intention, and then allow your spine to be awake, alert, just as you can. Let it be erect, as is comfortable for you. And feel your feet on the ground, if you can, if that's present, if that's available. And in this moment of quiet, and in this moment of connection, let whatever thoughts that are audible to you or that you can be sensed swirling around in your head, let them drop down out of that headspace. Let them kind of, for me, the image is kind of like the tornado in The Wizard of Oz. They start to swirl around and get smaller and become so that they can drop down out of my head, through kind of like dropping down in the inside of my body, through my throat chakra, through my solar plexus, and into my heart. So let your thoughts coalesce and swirl down and drop into your heart. And take a couple of breaths here. And if you notice, celebrate noticing a little less busyness in your head. And in the next breath, let that energy that has sunk down into your heart coalesce a little bit more and kind of melt down, ooze down from your heart into your dantian, your center of movement, which you can find a little bit below your belly button and a little bit back in from the front of your body. My Tai Chi teacher would say 4 finger widths below your navel and 1/3 of the way in. And just let your dantian, let your movement center receive this energy. And see what it feels like. Just let your thoughts melt into your belly? Do they become less loud? Do they become less intrusive? Let's spend another breath or two in this space. This meditation, as you kind of wiggle a bit and come back to the call, to the recording or the live call, this this kind of drop down. I can use it in a moment. I can use it as a tool if I'm feeling stressed or nervous about something. It's a really good way to get more in touch with your intuition and less worried about what's coming in from the outside, circumstances, people, places, and things. Let me know what you think. I'd love to know. All right, so Audra, welcome. Audra and I met her just shortly after I moved to the North Bay from the East Bay, and she's involved in some women's networking groups that I've been going to, and she is she does a lot of stuff. She's a business coach and very retreat minded. And that's kind of the core of what we're going to talk about today. So why don't you say a little bit and then we'll have a conversation.
Great. Thanks, Sue. Well, first, I'm excited to be here with you and just want to say thank you and extend my, appreciation and gratitude for just our connection and, sparking this conversation and this kind of circle and intention for women, women in business, women on a mission, women with purpose and meaning that is at the forefront of their lives and their work in the world. And that we need to be having more of these conversations. So thank you for inviting me in.
Yay.
Yeah. And I spend my time, I really love my work and my clients. I love doing what I'm doing. And I spend most of my time working with people who are truly visionaries that see a different way that we could be in our lives, on the planet, in business, making money, that there's a paradigm shift that we're moving into, we are in, and that they want to spark more attention for. And these are people that are heartfelt business owners, coaches, speakers, trainers, facilitators. And the retreat piece for me is that I work with my clients to create retreats and visionary events that really go deep for their clients and their participants, but also position them powerfully as a leader in their community, that they're a transformational leader, that they are calling forth that arising from people that they're already feeling, right? And saying you have permission to step into that new version of yourself or your relationships that you're seeking. And that kind of space takes a lot of intention and attention to create, that it's a sacred, safe space for people to do their work, but that it also sustainably supports the livelihood of the leader of that community. So my intention is really twofold: to have powerful, transformative work available to people through the clients that I work with, and that my clients are able to be paid well for that, and be able to sustainably live in the society we currently live in while they transition themselves and their communities into the new society that they are seeking.
Oh, I really like that. But I really like that. And I want to circle back to the thing you said about permission, because for me, that's a stumbling block, because I think with many of the women that I've worked, there is I don't know if it's societal or if it comes from having worked in regular employment for a while and then becoming a healerpreneur or a solopreneur of one kind or another, that permission coming from inside is not always accessible. You know, that there's a blockage between knowing what you want to do and feeling like you're permitted to do it. Have you run across that?
Oh, yes. I'm actually working on a project that touches on that very thing. So I've worked on that in my personal life, and I definitely see it in the world, and especially with women who are entrepreneurs. But the key thing for me that I've experienced in finding that permission for myself, and really it's a mindset shift that I have to give myself permission, right? There may be external factors and people in communities or organizations that don't inherently give me permission, or do, right? Because of my power and position in the world. But that can shift based on me giving myself permission and then setting clear intentions and boundaries with people, right? So the thing that I've seen with myself and why I'm in this project that I mentioned, which I'll talk a little bit about, is that we all have this experience of trauma, stress, abuse, these adverse childhood experiences growing up that really create these boundaries in our mind, right? Because we decide certain things to keep ourselves safe. And then as we get older, those things may no longer serve us. And so we have to break them down. And part of the permission for me has been really healing the wounds of my past. So the project I'm working on with 4 other amazing entrepreneurs is called Holy Shit, I'm Not Crazy, which is, giving permission to people to say, like, hey, as a woman, as an entrepreneur, as a person out there in the world that's trying to do things that shift the paradigm and go against the status quo, like, you're probably coming up against your shit and your trauma and your abuse and the stress and the impacts of your life. And it doesn't mean that you're crazy. It pretty much means you're human and normal. But that if we can be in touch with those places within us that are holding us back, and work with them, become friendly with them, build that relationship, and then create new ways of being in the world, the permission becomes inherent in our lives, that we don't actually have to take an action anymore to give ourselves permission, but now the permission is granted and we can live in a new way and express ourselves fully.
I love that, because 2 things. One is I think that when I'm not worried about what other people are thinking, or attached to outcomes, I think both of these have to be present. And then permission becomes moot. And
right.
And for me, then it turns into sovereignty. Or I have agency over my choices and the actions that I take. And that's the whole thing about priestess your business and priestess your life. People ask me, what do you mean by priestess? And that's exactly what I mean. That I don't need permission. Sorry, that's the Brooklyn in me. I don't need thinking permission, but that's not it. It's not like that chip on the shoulder kind of thing at all. It's more like, that's just not an issue. Because if it's when I can get out of my head and let those thoughts that are swirling all the time sink down, then I can be present to my intuition, and I can trust my intuition. If I'm not measuring it against your progress or anybody else's, if I can, and that's those words, priestess, sovereignty, and agency, are for me what it's like when I'm not attached to permission from the outside. Does that make sense?
Oh, it makes complete sense. Yes, it's definitely some of the principles that I live my life by. And it really sounds to me like you're talking about a very mindful way of living, right? That if we step out of the attachments or the expectations or the comparisons, we're actually stepping into the present moment, right? We're no longer comparing to the past or the future or to someone else. And that's a whole new way of being, right? But it takes so much practice to be in that. So for me, my practice is meditation and breath and yoga and movement and being in my body. And so I always encourage my clients to bring their practices into their work, right? Because we often think of it as like, oh, I do that in the morning or I do that in the evening or, but the, what I call a retreat lifestyle, right? Which is something that sparked our interest in our pre-conversation to this, is that we're doing that all the time, that we are incorporating it always, that it's actually a part of the business plan and a part of the business model, that we deliberately schedule times and places and spaces in our business to make that possible always. So it's not just an afterthought or an add-on, right? And that we do that for our clients too. That's what the retreat space is so beautiful for. Yeah. And
I just want to say that I'm in a new place with that now. I very much have been that person where I will schedule in my walk and I will schedule the things. Until very recently, I really relied on having that kind of structure. I would do my Tai Chi every morning and I would journal and I keep my journal right here in my office, or I will take a break and meditate or take a break and chant or whatever. But lately, studying the 3 principles of mind, consciousness, and thought, I'm now becoming even more liberated. I'm liberated from structure. And what's happening is, because I'm less rigid about how I spend my time, I'm finding, I was worried about that. If I let go of my rigidity, would I ever do Tai Chi again? Or would I ever meditate again? Or would I ever journal again? And you know what? I do. And I do it. And when I'm not so busy thinking about what I should be doing, that moment comes and I'm like present. I'm present to the moment. And then I can say, oh yeah, I think, starting that painting would be a really fun thing to do right now. Or that nap, that I didn't plan for. What a lovely idea. So.
Right, as the desire arises, right? So you're stepping into like more beingness rather than doingness, which is, if we are in touch with our animal selves, our animal bodies, animals are driven by their impulses, right? They're not scheduling everything out in a calendar. So if we can get more in touch with that in our earth body, right? That the earth is organic, it's moving all the time, and it's doing things that it are good for it, right? So we can do that too.
That's so, I over the course of my career, I started my career as a coach with schedule your life and live your schedule and be accountable and workable structures in your life and all this stuff, which was really great. But now I've really changed, and I don't think I would ever start a new coaching client off that way again. I'm in a different place with it. So it's really funny how people evolve. But the thing that I'm really hearing maybe for the first time is the big picture idea of this for me is that there's really no separation. There doesn't have to be a separation between the way you are in yourself, in your business, or in your self-care, or in your family, or with your loved ones, or when you're having fun, or when you're working on your whatever creative stuff. That more and more you can let go of feeling like you're this persona when you're in business. And I don't know, maybe it just helps me because I don't have work clothes. Like there is no difference in my closet between what I wear when I'm working and what I wear when I'm doing yoga. So maybe that makes it easier, but it's also part of what I teach now.
Well, it sounds like you get to be more of you all the time, that you don't have to like put on this persona, right? Do something in particular. You just get to be yourself in your business, in your work, in your life.
And you know what? There are some people that have to put on some kind of persona to do their work in the world. I get it. But the inside job part of that that you don't have to put, that doesn't have to affect the way your self-care happens. It doesn't have to affect the way you nourish yourself.
Right.
You can still nourish yourself like a queen in a business suit,
Oh, of course.
heels, and running to a, crazy meeting that, on the 40th floor of some office building. Not my lifestyle, but I know there are people who do that thing.
And they enjoy that, we all are made up differently, and what turns us on, could be totally different for each of us. So it's just going towards more fun, more excitement, more happiness, more pleasure, whatever that is. And it's going to totally change over our lifetime.
As I get older, my client base is getting older too, the people I'm serving. And I'm working with a lot of women who are at or approaching retirement age. Not apply to all of us, but you know what I mean. And some of them are like, don't know how to connect their inner self with their actions once they approach that thing, and it's showing me some of what I want to speak to in my work, because I think that's a thing. These boomer women whose careers are ending, or relationships are ending after decades, or the children are up and gone, and that there's a really important service to do there. At least that's I'm feeling like it's part of my calling now.
Yeah. Well, and that makes a lot of sense. My background is in higher education and career coaching along with business. And when I was really primarily coaching people around their careers and their professions, I was working, as I still do, with a lot of people who are sort of on the edges of normal. I call my people like unicorn people, because they feel like they're the different one from their family or their group, right? And we're just like, it's ingrained in our DNA almost that work is this thing we do to make money, and that we do it as an adult, and then we get to a certain time in our life and we can finally retire and be in our lives, right? And find like, oh, all the happiness and all the joy and all the money and everything, it's all later. It's never right now, right?
Yeah, that hurts. That thing about then I can relax. Then I can, yeah.
So if we flip that on its head, what does it look like if we actually are taking care of ourselves and relaxing and resting all along the way? Not that we're not doing work, but as you're experiencing, like, the desire still arises to do the things that you want to do. You're still going to be able to create and manifest and take action in the world. It's just maybe going to do it in a way that's, healthier and better for your mind, body, soul.
Yeah.
You're not always taxing yourself for that, pot of gold at the end of your career. And then, we've heard all those tragedies of people who have worked so hard in their life, and then, they have a heart attack when they're 47 or 55, or it's like, life is short. We don't know when it's going to end. We don't know when it's going to shift or transition for us in many different ways. So why are we just beating ourselves our whole life? That doesn't make sense to me. My family thinks I'm a weirdo too, because I have these ideas.
Yeah, well, yes. Yeah. And that's why I'm so glad that we can support each other, and that's why these communities arise of people helping each other out. So I want to thank you for joining me on a hot summer afternoon in the North Bay. It's 100 degrees here, 100 plus, I think. And taking time to have this conversation with me. And like I told you before the call, I will post this recording in the 3 Facebook groups. And if you have an offer that you want to make to the people who will see the recording, why don't you put it in a comment? When I will tag you when I post it. And if you can put your offer in the comment there, and even on the YouTube Moon Circles call page where the call will be.
Awesome.
I stumbled on my own words there. Sorry.
No, that's
Blah, 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 blah.
You're just being yourself, being your normal self. We're never perfect, right?
No, never. And that's completely true. So,
Well, and thanks, Sue, for this conversation. It was, we went to a couple different places, but I think for me, the heart of it is really like finding connection within ourselves, within our relationships and our communities, with our work, with the earth. That's a primary thing for me, and coming back to that connection over and over.
And I want to remember to say it is the full moon tomorrow. And tomorrow in Capricorn. And, do some full moon magic. If you've got something that you want to bring some energy to, if you want to, something that you want to bring into manifestation in this coming moon cycle, write it out, put it under a bowl with some water in it, and let the moon shine on it tonight and tomorrow night. Just let it bask in the light. Or if there's some medicine you want to make, I usually start my medicines on the new moon if I'm making a tincture and decant them on the full. But there's you can just mark the time, look up at the moon, walk in her light. Take some time for yourself and celebrate. Thank you, Audra.
Reminder for me. Thank you.
Yay. I know, and you're going to be away somewhere beautiful. You should have a beautiful full moon night.
I will.
Yes.
Dipping my toes in a lake.
Oh, good. And is there anything you want to say to check out?
Just that I appreciate being a part of your community. I look forward to growing our relationship, and to anybody that's watching this later on, reach out, connect. Business doesn't have to be, this thing that's like scary and formal. Like, let's make it personal. So I'm happy to be in touch with anybody that feels inspired and create that connection, further with your community.
Thank you, Audra. Me too, you. Yay.
Yeah.
All right. I'll see you soon.
Okay.
Okay. Bye.